Welcome back to Sonic Speed Reading, and if you're brand new here, I would recommend that you don't start your adventure with us with this particular episode. Not even for the last few episodes. I have a whole playlist. Go check that stuff out, because we're not wasting any time catching anybody up. We gotta get straight to it, because there's been a lot going on, and there's still a lot left to cover. Now, the last set of heroes and Eggman and Metal Sonic have all converged onto Angel Island, their last safe haven as the world's been consumed by the metal virus and is now under control of the Deadly Six. And we kick things off with this episode with a very interesting and rarely seen team-up. We've got Eggman and Tails working together on a project. As we already know, the Warp Topaz is a very unstable gem. Starline so far has been the only character that's been able to manage to carefully control the thing, but with the combined intelligence of Eggy and Tails here, they've managed to put together a multi-portal generator. With this up and running, the heroes are going to split up and take on the Deadly Six, all at the same time, and capture their Chaos Emeralds. Now, technically, there are more than enough characters here to take on the Deadly Six with 2 or maybe even 3 characters, but they aren't without their handicaps. Sonic, for instance, is not going to be able to join them as he has been just run ragged through this entire event. And Knuckles flat out refuses to join in because this is Angel Island, and he's not going to leave Eggman and Metal Sonic alone on here. The only defense for the Master Emerald would be a worn out and infected Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's a problem because obviously Sonic is a very important aspect for the team, especially since he's fought the Deadly Six before, and Knuckles is one of the biggest bruisers in the universe of Sonic the Hedgehog, so that's a massive handicap on their behalf. Still, Sonic knows his friend's abilities, and he knows the abilities of the Deadly Six, so he helps split them up accordingly. And while I do love to joke that I don't know the names of the Deadly Six, I am still here to help guide you through these comic books, so it is only fair that I tell you who these characters are and why they're going to be so much fun in these fights. Thankfully, Ian Flynn also thought the same thing, as he uses Sonic to explain to the characters, and in turn to the reader, who these characters are and what their abilities entail. Sonic starts off saying that Tails and Amy are going to take on Zamom. He's a bruiser, and well, I mean, Tails has dealt with these guys before, and if you've played the video games, you already know that Tails and Amy are a powerhouse set of characters. Let's be real here, even with a Chaos Emerald, that big yellow dude doesn't have a chance against them. Espio is going to take on Zaz. He's the lanky purple one who's basically a berserker. Think of a kid-friendly Carnage. Silver and Whisper are going to take on Zor, the emo flavor. His thinking is they have abilities that can let them attack from a distance, and that's the best way to take on this guy. And that, unfortunately, leaves the most confusing pair-up I've seen so far, because Gemerald is going to be taking on Xena alone. Xena is the green girl of the Deadly Six. And if you recall, the Deadly Six are here to begin with because they can control machines and robots. So Sonic sending out Gemerald to take her on himself is a very confusing move, to say the least. Whisper is used to working by herself, and she should be able to take on even a Chaos Emerald-fueled emo kid. That shouldn't be an issue. And Silver, for God's sakes, he's about as OP as it gets in this universe. But whatever, it's for story purposes, and it's one hell of an intense fight. So we'll deal with that in a second. The last setup here is actually going to be between Master Zik, the tiny old man guy, and the Babylon Rogues. Now, again, 3-on-1 might not be the most fair in terms of a setup here, especially when you have one robot that's supposed to take on one of these guys, but I do think it makes sense to have Jet and his crew work together. It's not like they're used to working with any of these other characters, so might as well keep them together and coordinated as a team, especially against Zik, who is a very crafty dude. But before they all go off to take on their particular flavor of Zeddy, we have Amy and Rouge discussing things. While Zavik doesn't know where the heroes are, he isn't an idiot, and he's using all the resources at his disposal on this spaceship to figure out where Eggman is, including getting a detailed list of all the places he's had bases before, both on and off world. And this is actually another little bit of world building here, because he sees the name Angel Island listed, and he has no idea what that place is, which is kind of cool, because again, we've never had these characters really and truly interact in the games, so this is the first time the Zeddy really interact with a lot of these iconic elements of the Sonic universe, and that's really cool. How canon it is, I don't know, but it's nice to see this actually take place here in the comic book. Now, Orbot and Cubot do their best to distract him in the meantime, but he is at least aware of it on the list of places where Eggman's had bases before. So it is really only a matter of time before he makes his way over there. And switching our focus over to Knuckles and Espio, and it really is only 2 panels, but this is still a really cool moment for me as someone who really loved Knuckles Chaotix, and despite the problems I do have with the Archie book and the way Penders wrote those particular characters, I still always felt like Knuckles and the rest of the Chaotix should have more of a brotherhood, considering the entire Knuckles Chaotix video game, you know? But unfortunately, in the last couple decades, they really haven't had a whole lot of interaction with each other. But here in 2 panels, we get Knuckles and Espio chatting with each other, and we do get a little more to Knuckles as a character. We already know that he's the guardian of Angel Island and the Master Emerald, and he's very, very protective of both of those things, but he also has a huge heart, as we see them walking through the campsite of the survivors from the surface below. And Espio is worried about what's going to happen to them if they fail, and Knuckles reassures him that regardless of whatever else happens, if worse comes to worse, he's going to watch over these people. And again, this is more characterization than Knuckles has gotten the last decade or so in the video games. And despite whatever else you want to say, this is showing growth of his character, because the Knuckles prior to meeting Sonic and all of his friends would probably never allow anything like this. And yeah, it kind of sucks that we finally get Knuckles in this storyline, and the first thing he does is say, nope, I'm not gonna do anything. This quiet little moment does mean a lot for me as a longtime Knuckles fan, but I've gone on about it for far too long. We've got a lot left to cover. The last interaction here is probably the most memorable for a lot of people who read through this story, as we see Eggman tweaking the portal generator, and we see Metal Sonic standing at attention next to Sonic on a treadmill. And this is an interaction we don't really get anywhere besides comic books. This is Sonic worn down and just, he's had it. You know, he's done sassing. He's beyond that point. And this gives you insight to how he views Metal Sonic and other robots. He says to Metal, in a way, Eggman really didn't get a chance to stay reformed thanks to Starline. But you had a chance, and you just had to go back to him, didn't you? You couldn't be like Gemerald or Omega. You had to be a one-note jerk. And see, if you go back to when Sonic let Metal run free, I still think that was a pretty stupid move, and I don't know if that's really in line with what I know him to be as a character, but if you go back to the OVA, or if you go back to all this other satellite media, and again, you use the references of these other robots that can think for themselves and make their own decisions, you can see that Sonic sees Metal as his own person, and holds him accountable for his actions, even if he is a robot programmed to serve Eggman. And speaking of, he jumps into this, and this is where he just starts talking crap to Sonic, reminding him that, yeah, he's a robot, and even if you neutralize the hardware, his software still demands battle and conquest. If he was made safe, then his sole desire would to be made dangerous. And while I do think it is important to talk about who's at fault for what and the larger moral implications of this entire event, we do know that this is, at the end of the day, a licensed comic book, and they can't really do too much different from the status quo. It will always have to go back to that. These comics can't make drastic changes for the canon, even if this isn't part of the game canon. Still, they do take the time to discuss these probably as deeply as they can, with Eggman reminding Sonic that whether you like it or not, you're still kind of responsible for all of this happening. And Sonic retorts like, look man, I didn't dump all this goo all over the world, that's on you. And Eggy responds, sure, that is the case, but thanks to you, I was able to get restored, Metal was able to get restored, and even putting that aside, considering that you're fighting off the infection, how much of it has mutated from all those failed attempts to run it off? And how much of that mutation has spread from him hitting other zombots? How many miles of infected grass did he cross, or hell, help spread? And Sonic is Sonic. We've already dealt with that character arc with Tangle. Sonic is not gonna let Eggman get in his head. And Eggy's like, look man, even if we clear all of this up, I've still infected you with that germ of doubt. And even if you shake off the metal virus, you will not be able to shake that off. And again, it goes to show you the relationship between these two characters. Yeah, Eggman is used to losing. He's used to having Sonic clean up his mess and getting things back to order. But considering how far things have gotten, Sonic can't fix things without Eggman. And addressing Sonic's actions and decisions, as indirectly as they may be, still affected the world in some way. And leaving Sonic with that little shred of doubt, that hit to his confidence, that's enough for Eggman. Even that little thing is a victory for him. And I guess he has to take what he can get, so whatever. It's a very interesting back and forth between these longtime rivals. But then we cut over to the Faceship, and I already told you about Zavok and discovering Angel Island, and Orbot and Cubot trying to throw him off base, distract him, and all this other stuff. But QB tells Zavok that that the metal virus is making an alert thingy. Something's going on. And it sends Zavok running, and this is like, what is that drawing? It's just so goofy. I don't know. Whatever. The point is to get Zavok out of the room, and Rouge enters. Two robots ask when Rouge plans to grab the emeralds away from Zavok, and she will deal with that within her own time. What's more important is that Orbot and Cubot send the coordinates of the rest of the 6 to Amy's team. It's now or never. They have to attack right now, and they all have to attack together. They can't give them the chance to group up and use the emeralds to their full capacity. And that's exactly what they do. They open up the portals, Sonic wishes them luck, and the teams head off to face off with their opponents. Tails and Amy, Espio, Silver, and Whisper, the Babylon Rogues. I just realized this franchise has both the word Rouge and Rogues. I always get those mixed up. Oh my god, that's so confusing. Anyway, we have this sweet moment between Gemerald and Cream, who gives her a hug and says that he will be back soon. And Cream says that this isn't goodbye, because I'm going to! And she breaks free from the hug and leaps into the portal with Gemerald following behind her. Whatever the plan was, it's out the window as Cream just lands right in front of Xena. Says, "Yay, you're being mean. You give me that gem right now, I'm gonna beat your ass." And then immediately Xena takes control of Gemerald. Alright, so that's not going well. And it's not going well for the rest of the team as we switch over to Tails and Amy. And they just walk right up to Zamom and just try to trick him. He is dumb as a prick. They basically say, "Hey, Zavok sent us. They said we're gonna need that Chaos Emerald." And Zami basically says, "No, man. I'm gonna eat you. Or squash you." I don't know. Something like that. Stupid potato head. We switch over to Espio, who logically makes himself invisible and then attaches himself to that weird moon mech. But unfortunately, he's smelled out by the Zeddy, who just grabs him by the arm and chucks him into a swarm of Zombots. And over in Orchardville, we have Silver and Whisper hiding out, figuring out a plan of action against Emo Boy. And the battle plan is Silver's basically gonna just attack directly, Whisper's gonna cover him. He approaches saying that, "Hey, I'm from a ruined future, thanks to you, so give me that emerald." And Emo Boy is like, nope. And well, just waves off Silver's psychic abilities. Ruh-roh. And then we switch on over to Winterberg, where we have Zik commanding different squads of Zombots. He's going to spread the infection as quickly and effectively as possible. But just then, the Babylon Rogues arrive and immediately get knocked off their extreme gear. And Jet specifically is taken over by Master Zix, who is just airboarding now. So yeah, he's basically clipped these birds' wings, and they drop into the center of a Zombot horde. He sends the two extreme gear back to their respective owners and just knocks them on their ass. But Jet leaps up and knocks Zik off his board and takes it back. And Jet, of course, brags, but Zik reminds him, well, hey man, that's not gonna save your friends. So yeah, things aren't looking super great for our teams, but we're not gonna stop here. Let's just keep on rolling through and see how these particular fights play out. Starting with Tails and Amy, who are on the run from Zamom, who's just waving his arms around. But again, remember, this is Tails and Amy. They've been in more than a couple of scuffles, as Amy turns around and just takes a hammer to his fat face. But even with both of them attacking, he's not going down. So Tails is gonna have to get a little clever here. And it's not gonna take much. This guy is an idiot. He basically just tells him, hey, I dropped my lunch over there, why don't you go get it? And it sends him running off. Like, with a character this stupid, you have to wonder how effective he actually can be as a team member. But I guess he shows his worth when he's hungry and pissed that he's not getting food, as he sends Zombots after our heroes. Tails and Amy head up to get higher ground. Zamom starts rumbling and chasing behind them and just starts bringing buildings down to get them back on his level. He chases them underground and they head on over to a gate. Tails tells Amy to wait for her command, and at the right time, she smashes a wheel with her hammer and it sends the gate crashing down onto Zamom. Which, good thing he's stretchy, because man, that does not look fun. Yeah, they had to get real creative and find something real heavy to get this guy to stay still, especially with a Chaos Emerald powering him. And Tails grabs his Chaos Emerald, leaving him to the Zombots. And I don't know why they're coming up on him now, or any of these characters. I thought that they could control robots. I don't know. Dramatic effect, I guess. Back over at Sunset City, we see Xena just sitting and cackling as she sends General off to take care of Cream. And Cream once again pleads to General, reminding him that he wanted her to be safe. And the General she knows is too tough to be pushed around. You have a kind heart. So yes, it's cheesy, it's corny, but you know General's a sucker for it. And he sends his fist into the side of his head. And this is interesting because I don't think we've ever had any of the robot abilities of the Deadly Six ever explained in the game. And this tells us that there's got to be an electromagnetic signal that they can send out to take control of machines. That's why General smashed the side of his head. He destroyed his wireless receiver, and in turn, freeing himself from the control of Xena, who is now irritated that she's got to get up and actually get her hands dirty. And thanks to the power of the Chaos Emerald, she's not completely without extra abilities, as she takes direct control of General's hands and feet, swinging him around like a puppet. He can't do anything about it. And General just tells Cream, hey, I can't do anything about this. You need to get out of the way. And Cream, I've seen this in a minute. She revs up into a spin dash and rockets off into Xena directly. She's a smart kid. She understands to take out the puppet master, not the puppet. And I guess she's smashing like the energy tether between her and General. She's stomping it with her foot. And she's just mad as hell. She hates fighting and she hates seeing her friends hurt and scared. She hates how mean Xena is. And she just whips General around, knocking Cream to the ground and sending him off into a pile of Zombots to be torn apart. She then turns her attention back to Cream and just straight up kicks her in the gut and holds her up by the ear. And she just talks shit. She holds her arm behind her back while holding her up by the ears and presents her to the Zombots. I mean, look, we're gonna take a look at the other fights, but I'm telling you right now, this is the most brutal of all of them. Now, in the comic itself, this is where we cut to Amy and Tails, but since we already explained how that fight went, we're just going to keep going with Cream and Xena. But it's important to note that a little time has passed here. As she says her arm is starting to cramp, this has been cathartic, but we're done here. Just then, General frees himself from the Zombots as she can no longer focus her control over him. And he rockets to her, grabs her by the hair, and just straight up Loki's her, man. Like, just sends her crashing into the ground. Like over his head into the ground. He takes a hold of Cream and begins to make his escape. But Xena's not done with him as she once again takes control of his arms and legs. But again, it is important to note that these are physical energy beams because General begins to fly around Xena and ties her up with her own energy, telling Cream to grab the emerald, which she does. Which of course frees General from the energy beams. I wonder if that's a reference to Knuckles Chaotic. I don't know. Anyway, he pulls up right behind Xena and says, "You hurt Cream." And it's moments like this why you understand why Sonic will see robots as their own beings, because General is pissed. And he once again grabs Xena by the hair, flips her around, and sends her flying into a pile of Zombots as they grab her from all directions and infect her while she screams. General goes to console an exhausted Cream. And this is why it's important to point out that there was a little time that had passed, because Xena said that we're done here. And from the reader's perspective, it could mean that she's gonna hold her up to the Zombots, get her infected, and then we're gonna be finished. But she meant that literally, because as it turns out, she was already exposed to the Zombots. As she says to General, "I've got sick." She holds out the emerald to the robot, saying that I don't want to make the others sick, so you're gonna have to go back on your own. And she just has this the most heartbroken face that even a robot is gonna feel something looking at that face. You know what I mean? She covers her eyes and says that she'll be brave. It's just like watching a scary movie. She'll be fine. A portal opens up and General just chucks the emerald in. That's the most important thing to get back to the rest of the group. He then picks Cream up and flies her over Sunset City, just in case this is the last thing she'll ever see, and tells her, "I will stay with you until you are well." And look, I'm going to be honest with you guys, the rest of the fights do not hit like that one does. Cream's been an MVP through this entire arc. This is the first time we've seen her in this canon. She's lost her mom, she's lost her Chow, she's been through a lot, and she flat out faced a chaos-powered Zeddy basically on her own. She is hardcore, and this has been one hell of an arc for her. And man, it is... Ian, you just had to throw one more heartbreaking moment before the end of all this, didn't you? Crying out loud, man. I can't take this. Now let's just get to the rest of them. Like, who? Ugh. Look, you know Silver and Whisper are badasses. This Emo kid doesn't stand a chance. And Silver just fights him head on, and unfortunately, Emo Boy is holding his own while talking trash to him. And this is an interesting setup because, remember, this depiction of Silver is an overwhelmingly positive guy, and he's facing off a guy who revels in misery. But fight plays out exactly like you'd expect. Whisper has her wisps set up the different diamonds, and they shoot off and just knock the emerald off of this annoying Hot Topic reject. Silver takes a hold of it and just crushes his owl bot, and they head on back to Angel Island, leaving the Emo Boy to the Zombots. And again, I don't understand why they're not responding to him. I mean, even without the emeralds, maybe I missed a throwaway line. I don't know. Again, this is more for dramatic effect, but we'll get to it. We then turn our attention back to Riverside with Espio. We got Zaz basically just blasting everything apart, trying to hit this dude, and just reveling in all the chaos. But Espio keeps a cool head and throws some ninja crap around, gets up onto a roof, and while the purple Zeddy is busy just destroying this house, Espio just stealths up behind him and just beats his ass down. I mean, I'm talking like purple on purple violence here, man. And Zaz says that's not bad, but Zavok's done way worse. Again, flat out stating that Zavok straight up beats his team. And Zaz is like ready for round 2, and Espio's like, no need, I've already won, and then just whooshes off. Zaz calls him a coward, but then he looks down and sees that the Chaos Emerald has been replaced by a note saying that justice is served. Signed, the Chaotix Detective Agency, given a little symbol for each of the 3 members. Espio hops back into the warp portal, saying that while he was the only one here in body, you were here in spirit, and it shows a reflection of his 2 missing comrades. And finally, we return our attention to Jet and Zik. We have Wave and Storm holding off the Zombots best they can, with Zik talking crap to Jet's leadership abilities. Again, we're going with some great setups between all of these characters here. Zik says you don't sacrifice your own unless you gain the advantage. All he needs to do is utter a single command and Jet will have lost everything. He asks Jet to humor an old man and just beg for mercy. It's been so long since he's crushed an enemy under his own heel. What a dirty old boy, my goodness. And Jet, man, he says we're the Babylon Rogues. We don't beg, we don't give up, and we don't lose. And just blast the crap out of Master Zik. Sends it rocketing over to Storm, who just dude, just his entire fist takes up his entire body. He just decks his entire body. And Wave just grabs the green emerald off of his body as he's rocketing into a pile of Zombots. Wave tells Jet to take the emerald and go. She's lost her extreme gear. Storms has been smashed to bits. He's the only one with a working one, so take it and go. And Jet instead attaches the green emerald to his green board and sends it flying back into the portal and back to Angel Island. Standing with his crew, he says, didn't you hear me say it to the old man? We're the Babylon Rogues, and we don't lose. That means all of us. Sonic will get the emerald and do his hero thing. And until then, let's show these Zombots a real challenge. And look, I gotta tell you, I've never been a big fan of the Babylon Rogues or the Deadly Six. Part of that's because I've not played through all the Riders games. I heard the stories are a lot of fun, so I'm excited to do that eventually. But my point is, I've not given these characters a lot of attention myself, but just reading through these stories and these particular face-offs, it's just been a wild ride. And when you see these characters in such a dire predicaments put together by the Deadly Six of all characters, and we get to see Jet really show what he's worth, it's just, man, taking some of the most mocked characters that have literally never interacted before, part of completely different generations of games in this franchise, and just merging them together so well and telling such exciting stories and fights with them is, man, bravo. This is a lot of fun. But yes, everyone has been, on some level or another, successful in retrieving the Chaos Emeralds, and we return our attention to Angel Island, as everybody is returning around the same time as per the plan. And let's pay special attention to the ones that don't have their teams returning. I like this little bit of art here showing Metal Sonic grabbing the extreme gear. I mean, it's really a nothing thing, but I do like that they pay enough attention to know that an extreme gear would be rocketing off, and Metal Sonic's really the only one that could retrieve it quickly. And I do love that little bit of art with him holding the bar. He looks so interested. Like, later, Dad, I'm gonna go be a pro skater. Sonic in turn catches the red emerald, and the realization hits him that Cream is still back there with the Zombots. And Sonic tells him to focus up. General's with her. She'll be alright because we're gonna make things right. Silver looks on son, Forlorn, says that with only 2 more emeralds, he can become Super Sonic and save us all. But Sonic says he's been thinking about that. In the future, everything had been infected, and Sonic reasons that all of this must have happened already. But there's something different now than what happened then. The difference is Silver is with them, and they're going to have to rely on that one difference to pull this off. And Sonic says he's going to need Silver's help to do this. But whatever they're planning on doing, they better do it fast. Because as it turns out, Zavik has found Angel Island and is preparing the Faceship to attack. But that is where we're going to end things today, guys. The suspense! Oh my goodness. I know more happened in this issue, but I wanted to focus on the fights between all the secondary characters because they rarely get a chance to shine this brightly. And man, what a set of battles those were. But when we return, we will be covering the final fight of the Metal Virus Saga. So if you haven't already, be sure you subscribe and stay tuned for next week because it's going to get wild. And of course, if you want to read these books for yourself, be sure you do. Support these writers, support these artists, support these amazing people that are bringing us some of the very few great Sonic stories we're getting in the modern age. No, it's not always perfect, but for God's sakes, this is so much fun. Thank you so much for the patrons who've been supporting me over on Patreon. Thank you guys for sticking along for this wild ride since this has been everything but speedy. And I will see you all next week. Toot toot, Sonic Warriors!